Hello, happy Friday. I hope you're able to enjoy this really nice weather after the cool last week or so that we've had. It had me wanting to definitely hibernate and not be out, but today and this weekend it's going to be great. So I hope that you get a chance to go outside and enjoy it. But today we have horror stories, or Ruth is coming soon. Thanks for tuning in. This is where we have an opportunity to talk about horror stories. And the point of horror stories are kind of like, to feel a little bit better about yourself. Thank goodness it didn't happen to me. But also to show you that that this is an opportunity to learn. And when we give you advice and we try to walk our clients, buyers and sellers, through the process, that we're really trying our hardest to not make the mistakes that others have. So that's kind of our opportunity. We're not here to be, overly salacious, or at least I'm not, but sometimes doing that is a little fun too. But anyway, so that's the point of these horror stories, is that, you never know, no matter how much planning goes on, things can always go sideways. And this is just an opportunity to learn. So my first horror story, actually, it was shared this week by me, by a friend who had heard it. And it was talking about basically somebody this agent knew for years, had worked on with their spouse, their former spouse, and for years on local sports teams. You get to know people over the years. You're working closely. Everybody's, hangs out, friends, whatever. And she really thought she could trust this person. Well, this person went through a divorce and wanted to buy their own house. And they also came into some money. So kind of good timing on their part. And so this agent started showing her houses in, million and a half price range. So she gets the pre-approval, because when you're in that price range, you usually have to show the pre-approval or the pre-qualification prior to actually even showing the house. So that agent presented that information to to the potential sellers. And she was allowed to go in and show her client. Her client loved the house. They made an offer. And she had been communicating with this lender by email only. So she got the updated pre-approval. They won her contract. There was something wrong with earnest money, or I'm not exactly sure if it was earnest money, or different states do different things. Basically, it's the money that has to be put down at the time that the contract went down. So there was something, they got the check, but something went wrong with the check. And her mother would now sign a check because there was a hold on her account. And I'm sure you can see where this is going, because there's an excuse after everything, right? So there was, the mother had to write the check because there was a problem with her account. And so they got a check and that was deposited. And then, things kind of went, got pushed back further and further, and we're not sure. And they kept getting emails updating from the lender. Oh, we're good. We're just having, we just have a little bit of this and a little bit of that to do. And we'll be ready to go in a little bit. And the extension kept happening, extensions. And I still don't know why this agent never got on the phone and talked to an actual lender. But long story short, the entire pre-approval was falsified. There was no funds. There was no proof of funds. There was, she had no money or ability to buy this over $1 million home, and was in, and it was in an area that, $1 million homes were really out of the ordinary. And so, and why everybody in that process did not haul that off real fast. When the first checks were bouncing and not going through, and wires were being missed, and deadlines and stuff like that. And they just kept giving these people the opportunity. But the crazy question is, why would somebody do that? That's the thing. When we're in our public, when we're working with the public every day, we really don't know, you just kind of go on the assumption, at least I usually go on an assumption that everybody's doing the best they can with what they have and, out there, making the best decisions that they can. And I know there's some horrible people out there, but I usually try to assume that they're all honest. And especially I wouldn't question, especially since Ruth and I work off of referral, I would never question somebody I've known for years giving me a pre-approval and saying, let's go. Why would you do that to a friend? Hey, Ruth. Nice to see you.
Hey, did I scare you being late?
I'm telling a story about somebody who didn't really have a valid pre-approval on an over $1 million home and screwed the whole system, the whole contract up and process up for weeks, extensions and pretended to be their own lender. Yeah. And she knew the agent. They were friends for years. Could you imagine that?
Because I was going to say, that is sadly not unusual enough if it were an actual lender, but that
made up lender
is just a psychopath. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that's my diagnosis.
Right. It's somebody who knew the jig was up. At some point it was going to come up, but teach their own, I guess. But yes, so there were some warning signs there. I was saying that these stories are more about learning things and changing our process. It's not just to be salacious, which can be fun sometimes, but
it's also sometimes people don't understand. Hello, Melissa. Sometimes people don't understand why we do what we do. Like, why do you need that from me? Why do you need to know that? Why, I mean, this is mostly horror stories about things going wrong in transactions, but, Beverly Carter is the most famous story we know, the woman whose name we all know, of a realtor who showed up to show a house and was murdered. She's not the only one. We are in a vulnerable position doing what we do. That's one of the reasons why Danielle and I only work by referral. We work with people we know or who know people we know. But when we used to work a little more with people we hadn't met yet, we would ask for identification. We would ask to meet them in a public place. And we got some pushback sometimes. And, the idea that you can just go walk into someone's home and see where they live and where their children sleep without having to show who you are or the ability to make a purchase is ridiculous. So I'm going to tell everybody in the public, if that ever happens to you, if you ever reach out to a realtor who isn't us and you don't know them and they don't ask you to prove who you are, they're an idiot. Don't work with them.
You can't even get into a used car without giving your ID up.
Yeah.
And so why should you be able to roam around people's homes and
someone's home? And that's another thing about FSBOs. People think, I'm going to save some money and do it for sale by owner. Okay, you're just going to let anyone walk into your home and walk around and see where your stuff is and the pictures of your kids on the walls, and you're going to just be fine. You might as well put a stranger's welcome sign on your front lawn. Just leave your door unlocked.
Yep.
So the safety thing, and by the way, it's not just women. I know a lot of male realtors feel that they are perfectly safe and that it's women who are targets. We know many, many stories of men who've been beaten. There was a man at a new construction office in somewhere on the East Coast. Was it New York?
I don't think it was New York.
Jersey, somewhere around there. And he was murdered in the model home.
Yep.
A colleague that we see on social media was recently beaten. He bent down to unlock a lockbox. Never even saw where it came from.
And we see this type of situations, near close calls, potential close calls, and actual incidences pretty regularly. We, probably the most deadly, the deadly ones are kind of fewer and farther between. But I'm still saying, you know, I still at least hear a very bad story once a year. There was somebody recently in, was it Orland, Lockport?
Somewhere on there.
Somewhere around that area that had a bad situation. And just recently. So it really happens everywhere. It's not just full, it's not just populated. It's not East Coast, West Coast, Central. It really, kind of, that's the trope right now, is it can happen anywhere. It really, truly can happen anywhere.
And so you as the public should expect that you're going to be vetted. If you're not, really, you should look out for that agent who is not taking their own safety seriously. And so I wouldn't expect them to take yours seriously. This is not hyperbole. This really is something that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And I totally forgot what else I was going to say. Sorry.
That's okay. Safety first. We try to as much as we can. So again, this is learning stories. This is horror stories. I guess this is still horror stories. This really has to do more with us than the general public, but it's just an understanding, right? Like I said, we learned everything. We now know that Ruth and I was telling a group of people the other day of all of the steps I take or we take as a team to make sure that we are safe and that we, when we have open houses, we do not do them ourselves. When we are showing houses, even in those open house situations.
And by the way, that's the other thing. If you go to an open house and a realtor is following you around, don't consider it annoying. That's somebody's home. That realtor is responsible for the safety of that person's home, as well as their own safety.
Correct. Those back doors, second doors always open. The front and the back door. You need two ways out. You're not the first. You're not leading somebody down to the basement.
And there's horror stories as well about things missing.
Basements are huge.
Theft. Yes.
Get knocked on the back of the head going up the stairs when they are behind,
and sometimes behind them. Have these people not watched, TV?
Well, you have good and bad, but what are you going up the stairs, from the basement? Are you going up the stairs? You don't go down the basement sometimes, or you go down the basement first or last or whatever, but you're it's a risk regardless. If you're the first one up there, your back is to them. If you're the last one up, theoretically you could get locked in the basement and they have free reign to the house.
And also, as a citizen, if you are arriving in an open house, we have people who come to open houses and don't want to give us their name and information. Well, I'm sorry, but you're coming into somebody's home. We're not going to let you in if you're not going to tell us who you are. You don't want to talk to us afterward. That's fine. Don't talk to us afterward. But we need to know who you are when you're coming into someone's home. Don't be so unreasonable. Expect, if you're walking into a home, that there's going to be hopefully more than one realtor there, and that they're going to be keeping an eye on you, as they should, for your safety as well. So, you can walk into a place pretty confidently knowing that there's people there and you're going to be safe. There are a couple of cases where realtors have actually turned out to be criminals. It's rare because we're licensed and we're vetted pretty well, but it has happened. And so we want you to be as safe as we want ourselves to be safe.
Absolutely.
And if you are working with someone who's a complete stranger, the danger goes up, right?
So let's see what else. What's another horror story? I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but
we're just about done. We're almost to the last of our time, so we'll do one more and then jump off, right?
Yes. So I'm not sure if we've gone over this one before, but it's again learning to life lessons and such is always assume that it's going to take a lot longer to get out of the house, to move out of your house than it does. Please don't have the movers come that morning if you're closing at 10.
Yeah. Yeah. And when movers tell you it's going to take 4 hours and you're assuming that they know what they're talking about because they do this every day.
No.
Even movers that's 6 hours minimum, right?
Absolutely.
So even though they come and they look at everything and they've got the people and they have the experience and all of that stuff, I am telling you, I've never, ever seen a move that matched the time estimate.
Time frame. Nope. And overestimate how long it's going to take you to pack up. Like seriously, try to have everything but like the last few things in days beforehand, because Ruth knows that there's been such, and I've seen on both sides, buyers and sellers. I've had buyers who have been sitting at the closing table for hours while I go to the house that they're buying and help the sellers and the seller's agent keep packing and throwing things at the curb and putting it on the truck. I have had my own sellers where, I'm there at 6 a.m. helping them put things. I'm putting things in my car.
By the way, not in our job description.
This is about beyond.
We will help anyone who's in a bind when we can, but please don't count us in the number of people who will help you move.
Absolutely. Yes. But you have to sometimes just get things done. I've been throwing things into a garbage can from the fridge as final walkthroughs going on.
Yeah. And by the way, it's a nightmare when you're closing on one property and you need that money to move into the next one, and they're going to hold back a couple of $1,000s because your home wasn't ready at walkthrough.
Yep. And we do ours last minute, right? Like Ruth, we did a dual one where that situation happened. You're in the house going, seriously. And I'm representing, and I'm there and I'm going, I'll send you pictures. There's a lot of extra stress that goes into it. And yes, it absolutely could screw up everything else.
Yes. And that day I went to closing with the buyers. You stayed at the house to empty it and send me video footage. And we had to wait. We had to sit and wait at the closing. Everybody else left. The lender left. The attorney left. I think the closer left. And then you sent us the information saying it had been completed. And then the title company was allowed to fund the seller's closing, and we could give the buyers the keys.
Yeah.
So lots of pieces are interconnected, and when one doesn't work, it can really throw off the whole puzzle picture.
And we understand, we try, when we're giving you a net sheet and trying to help you figure out what it's going to be to sell your home. We understand we don't really ever put, moving costs, because we just don't know how much it's going to be and what you're doing and what your situation is. But, and we know that every dollar counts. It always counts. Bad economies, good economies, when you're making, $150,000 off the sale of your home.
And it's really hard to say, oh, it's $1,000. We'll just, we'll do that. We get it. But believe me, I have never heard of anyone who regretted spending money on movers.
Well, or not even just movers, but again, like making sure you're being planned to be moved out the day before, and maybe you just have a hotel room. Maybe
a hotel room, it might be $150. You can find one for less.
Swim, relax, hang out, whatever. Yes. Get room service. Do something you never do. Look at it as an opportunity, because I'm telling you, the stress.
Put it in your plan.
Last second throwing it, because now you're throwing everything in a garbage can, or you're throwing everything in a box, and you are hoping you didn't need it, or if you threw it away, or you're hoping that you don't need it now because now it's in some random box you just threw things in, and you'll never find it for the next 6 months while you go through your boxes. So it is one of those things that we really hope that you take it. And buyers maybe have a little bit of mercy too, if you find yourself in this situation. Again, what did I say at the beginning of this? Generally, people are trying to do the best they can with what they, the knowledge they have and the resources they have. And, they sometimes make these mistakes that they do not plan. They could be the best people with the best laid plans, and just things didn't work out their way. So that is, it's
cool, the emotions.
It can be a nightmare, but sometimes we just have to deal with it.
Yes. Yes. And also go into it knowing something's going to go wrong. If you start with that expectation, you're going to be much happier about the situation when it does. Because Danielle and I cannot guarantee a lot. There's death, there's taxes, and there is something will go wrong in a real estate transaction, and something will break after you buy your house. So those are the 4 things that we can guarantee across the board. So thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our horror story edition. We're going to do this all month. And if you have your own horror stories, hit us up with them. We would love to include them in our little broadcast here. Other than that, if you're an agent, hop over to our agent. I need to get a URL for this, but I can't figure out what it should be. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Our For Agents Only YouTube channel. It's my name currently. You'll see it says Raise the Bar in real estate, which is what we're always trying to do. And pop over there. We'll have some inside scoops for real estate agents.
Bye-bye. See you next week. Enjoy your weekend. It's beautiful.